Well, hello and welcome back. Sorry I've not posted a video for a long time. A few reasons for that. Generally laziness really, but I have had a few other projects on, but I decided not to film really. So I've been building my wife a shed, and there's been a few little projects in the shed here. I've added a power feed to this milling machine and rebuilt this dividing head to try and use this milling machine as a kind of a slotting and dividing machine. The other reason is I've been putting off taking the plunge with the electronics of the CNC lathe. So that's what today's video is about, the electronic selection, the route I've decided to go down, and starting off some of the wiring work. I had originally planned to reuse as much of the electronics as possible. However, I soon came to the conclusion that finding the fault in the electronics was probably a much bigger job than just ripping them out and starting again. Plus, you get the benefit of having new, modern, high-performing electronics. I'm still hoping to reuse the spindle and potentially the drive, but the stepper motors, the breakout board and the drivers will all be replaced. So this motor is the original permanent magnet DC motor that was in the lathe. So there are multiple connections here. So these two are some kind of thermal trip. This is a protective earth, and then you've got the supply wires here. So I just want to check that this is actually working, make sure that this isn't the issue, and then this will go back in the lathe. So I've connected it up to the power supply. So this is a 35 volt power supply ganged up, so we've got about 70 volts. And this is a 180 volt maximum motor, so it should be enough just to run it and just to check that the thing operates. So the motor seems to run fine, so I'll pop this back into the lathe and we'll have to sort out a spindle controller for this. I replaced the original stepper motors, probably 30 or so years old, with these NEMA 23 bipolar stepper motors. These are just generic Chinese ones, but I think they'll perform better than the original units that are on here. After some frenzied Amazon and AliExpress buying, I have some low-cost control components. So we have the two stepper drivers, I think they were about £8 each. We have the breakout board, that was about £12. We've got a 36 volt power supply, that was something like £20. The original relay, and then a DC motor controller, that was about £50. And then I've remounted the original motor, and we've got the original fan mounted back there. I've temporarily mounted the DC controller, just wired it up in situ and wired it into the existing motor, just to make sure it works and to check we're not going to have any issues with it. At the moment I'm controlling it with a potentiometer, but the intention ultimately is to use the plus or minus 10 volts to come out of the breakout board, and then use the spindle speed feedback from the spindle itself to control the speed. So I'll just turn this on, and you can hear it speed up. So this is at full speed. If I come around here, you can see the original drivetrain running. So I've got a little reflective strip on the pulley, so you can see the motor's running at about nearly 5,000 RPM, which is a little bit higher than the motor bait says, but we're probably running at a slightly higher voltage and it is unloaded. So the next job is to lay these components out properly on this backboard. My plan here is to run this as a Mach 3 machine. There are lots of options, and probably it's not the best solution, but hopefully it's the simplest way to getting this machine running. With the price of these components, it's not a big deal to upgrade those later on, particularly the breakout board. So I think that's the most sensible option. Get this machine running with the least stress possible, and then possibly upgrade it in the future to maybe Linux CNC with its superior threading functions, etc. So I've done the high voltage wiring of the control system. So we've got the power comes in here, it goes through a 2-pole switch, then through a breaker, and then line filter, and to the power supply, and to the DC motor controller, and also to the fan. So the next job is to wire up the signal side, so the steppers, the stepper drivers, the stepper motors and the control board, and also figure out what I'm going to do with the relay in terms of how I'm going to deal with the emergency stop loops. So I hope you enjoyed a bit of a catch up on the CNC lathe project. Next job, as I said, is to start wiring the signal side of the electronics up. As you can see, I've taken a kind of low cost approach. The plan is to give it a go, see how I get on, and if I use the machine a lot and it's successful, then I'll probably change the electronics out to something a bit more sophisticated. But hopefully the cheap parts will be sufficient to get the machine running, get it usable and get it operating. So hopefully the next video won't be so long in the making, and yeah, hope to see you all soon. Thanks a lot.